Actually, it's a history that goes back to the 1950s. And when I was in high school, and rock and roll and rhythm and blues were just starting to come together, there was a radio station called KWBR. Don Barksdale was one of their disc jockeys. So I'm listening to Fats Domino and Little Richard, you know, Big Joe Turner, you know, people I hadn't heard before, but I was just coming into my teenage years. It's like kids today hearing rap for the first time. They called it race music because white people didn't know how to handle it.
You know, growing up in Oakland, California, there were not a lot of African-American heroes who were in the spotlight. Don Barksdale was one. You know, he was on KDIA radio, and he was just kind of a guy that always exuded class, and he had a lot of talent himself. And I just remember, you know, he was the first, you know, black All-American basketball player, and I remember he played in the NBA.
I had just put out my first album, Stormy Monday, with Les McCann. Back in those days, everybody used to go and hang out at the radio station, you know, to see who was going to come by the station, you know, and they knew everybody was going to come by to see Don. So we went over and we went to the radio station, and I met Don. Just happened that Don was on the air at the time. So we met, and he said, "I really like your album, man." He says, "You ought to come up and perform in my club." I said, "You got a club?" He said, "Yeah, so why don't y'all come by later?" So promotion man took me by there that evening. It was Latin night. It was Pete and Coke Escovedo. And the place would be jam-packed, you know.
Don was one of those guys that he saw the future of Oakland in the entertainment industry. He really catered to the Bay Area people, and that was important to him, to make sure that they got the best entertainment that he could possibly give them.
I worked for Don for, gosh, many years, and handled a lot of shows.
Don would tell me a little bit later about all the acts that would come through play here, like Red Fox came through, Flip Wilson, people like that. Like Lou Rawls would play here for like 8-9 years.
And anybody played the showcase and the Sportsman. I worked a lot of shows with Etta James. I worked a lot of shows with Ike and Tina. They used to play there 2, 3, 4 times a year.
And there was all that hidden talent that was waiting to come out. And Don, the name of his place was a showcase, but he was a showcase. And I thought, what a good man, you know, a lot of all the people that he had helped in his life. And then when he started on Save High School Sports, I mean, I couldn't write enough.
Don had a lot of contacts, and he did his best to try to help a lot of the youngsters coming out of the Oakland public schools. And the fact that he was so involved in the sports scene of what Oakland was, I mean, helped to really, I thought, to bring the Warriors and everything here to Oakland.
My father enjoyed talking about sports, taking his sons, both me and my brother, to basketball games, baseball games, football games. He was a scout for the Warriors for a while, so I think I've seen, out of the 88 games that I think they had each year, and about 40 of them were home games, I think I saw about 39 of them most of the time.
In the early 80s, in the city of Oakland, there were a number of things that were happening that really created a lot of problems for our city. And at the time when the effects of Proposition 13 finally settled in, it really had a devastating effect on the Oakland Athletic League.
Sports were just eroding to the point that some outstanding athletes didn't have any interest in sports at all.
You know, because this is when they started talking about cutting out arts and entertainment and sports and stuff in schools.
So help had to come from some direction.
And Don decided to start Save the High School Sports. And that was one of the ways that he thought he would help out. And he wanted to make sure that the money he raised did not go for expenses and administration.
So, and you know, and then you say, okay, that makes sense, Don, because when you think about it, these same people that's having this stuff cut out, what did they do when they went to school? You know what I mean? Where did they get their motivation from?
You know, the fact that Donald was not able to play high school ball fueled his desire to raise money at the end of his life. He spent so much time raising money for high school kids in the Bay Area, and I think it was because he knew how much it hurt him not to play high school ball when he was in high school in Berkeley.
And Don was a pioneer in attempting, or really working to turn it around. And he did it in a grand style.
What he was doing for high school kids went above and beyond throwing a dinner, you know what I mean, and going to the school and speaking about drugs. And when I got to know him and finally saw what he was trying to do, I thought to myself that this man maybe is a saint.
The things that Donald accomplished against the odds he had to face were phenomenal, and I think that's a great, he therefore is a great role model for anybody.
And when you have people like Don Barksdale who have paid a price, who have given of their time, who've tried to make it better for the kids who are following them, then you have that responsibility kind of put on you. It's up to you to make it better for the kids who are going to come after you.
Barksdale went to many new frontiers, and we owe him a debt of gratitude, as we owe a debt of gratitude to all of the African American pioneers who foraged new ground.